this facility. While there is access from the community in the back, that is not what they were interested in. Our client themselves was not interested in that. They wanted the access from the parkway. So when we met with the county and we talked to them about it, we determined what the process was. There were a couple of things. The county said, we're happy to cooperate with you, and as part of the process, which is a state process, and we'll get into that in a moment, you have to de-alienate parkland to get a right of easement of access over the road. We needed to go to the county and get a home rule message. And the county therefore has to cooperate. The county said, this is fine, but you can't do this unless we have adequate parking for our people that use our county park. We're mostly Mount Vernon residents who use the pool there. As a matter of fact, please understand that we've made significant improvements to that pool area, which has led to more people using it, and we cannot cut down on the parking. So we went through months of discussions with the county, which culminated in an agreement, which is not enforceable at this point. There's a formal process that has to go through. But we have a tentative agreement signed by the Deputy County Executive of Westchester County, in which what is going to occur is that Wood Partners is going to pay for the easement, and that's not for the land, but for the easement, to the county, $362,500. That's part of an appraisal. And the reason for that payment is the county is then going to take that money and create the parking spaces that it had been using on the weekends with the permission of the office park, and they're going to create it on the county land. So again, because I had mentioned it earlier, what had been occurring was when they needed overflow parking on the weekends, they've been using the office parking lot with the permission of the office owner. They haven't been paying for it, it's just been voluntary. As good neighbors, they said, we don't use this place on the weekend, use our parking spaces. They don't, as a county, have a right to use them, other than at the voluntary permission of the owner. We said, fine, not a problem. We understand that you have to replace those spots. So the county is going to go through a process with us. All they ask is that you don't close it down in 2014, and you don't close it down in 2015. We said, fine, we won't be done with our approvals, we won't have started construction by then. That will give them the time to get money from us. They will build the parking on their site, and when the parking is built on their site, we will be able to go forward with the construction. So that, in a nutshell, is our discussions with the county. The timeline of this, you understand it, is the reason that this is not all finished at this point, is that we need state legislation for the permission to use that parkland. I have personally participated in conversations with your local representatives, and they are cooperating with us because they believe this is a good use, and this is something the city council has said they want to see occur as the use. We were trying to do it last year, but the legislative calendar ends in June. And because we were not far enough along, we had to suspend our process at the county for home rule. And the reason for that was we had time to take the county home rule, but because the legislature a new legislature starts in January, because they finished their term, anything they did this year would have been good next year. So we start the process again in January. I've spoken to the county this year, and essentially what's going to occur in January, we will in January approach the county legislature for permission, home rule, to ask the state government to give us the right to use that road. And by the way, not just for our people, but for the entire community to use that public park access, which technically could be closed at any time right now. And we will be asking, the county will say, here's your resolution of approval to go to the state. Then we have to go to the state, and during the legislative session, which will take place from January roughly to about June 15, get the state legislature to grant us that easement. If we don't have a project. I want to make it very clear to you. And it's part of our approval process. So it's our risk, it's our effort. We have to go get that. City council has made it part of our approvals. You have it as part of it, and that's where we are. So that, I know those questions, so I want to come down this evening and give you first-hand discussion.
Thank you. Let me open it up to the commissioners for some questions.
I have a question regarding the number of parking spaces that you anticipate building.
Right. And the answer is we're not building them, the county's building them.
Correct.
I know that they believe that when I sat in on meetings, and so far it's only been sketches by their parks commissioner and things, it's going to have to do some engineering and grading and things. I believe it's their intention to have more spaces created than are currently they're using at the office park. I don't have the exact You'll probably have it in January or February. Do you know what the current number of spaces at the office facility? No, I don't have any, I don't know for sure. So, but the answer is I know that they're planning on having no less than that, that's the county's plan. Again, it's not engineered yet, so I can't give you the exact number.
On your next update, would you be able to, or attempt to find that out? Because that is an important part. That's a big public interest question.
No question. We can definitely get you the number of spots that are there now. I don't know if the county will have finished their engineering by the next time we're before you, but it would be shortly thereafter. We intend to approach the county legislature. They reorganize January 4th. The next meeting is like the third week of January. We intend to initiate the process in January. Exactly when the county is going to finish its engineering for the parking spaces, I don't know exactly, but hopefully we'll have a pretty good sense.
And my report will keep me honest, but I think we have maybe information of how many parking spaces are currently there. What we probably need, I'm sorry?
136.
Thank you. Who we had?
136.
But I think what we seek to know is what the utilization was prior in peak times. As we told you with regard to the traffic study, which was done in kind of the spring and not peak time, we really need to have an idea of what peak looks like so we can understand what the change looks like.
Well, again, from the standpoint of the use of for this particular issue, no more than 136 parking spaces have been utilized by people at this facility. So when we close it, that's what has to be replaced. And our understanding is the county will be replacing at minimum that number. They're going to try and get as many in there in that spot that they have. But again, engineering and things that have to come up, they have to strike out. But that's my understanding how we intend to proceed.
Can you tell me how long has that lot been used as an overflow lot?
It's recent, right? I don't know for sure. You probably have people here that know more than we do, but I believe it's not. It doesn't have a long history to it. But as it was explained to me, but I don't know these facts, only secondhand from the county parks commissioner, is that they made some significant improvements some years ago to the pool, and at that time people started using it a lot more, and that's when they needed more parking, and that's when they approached the office park. But I don't have the years for that. Maybe some of the community would know. I don't know.
Any other questions, comments with regard to this and that update?
So we would ask now that our architect's here, if we could load the PowerPoint that would be terrific.
How much time do you need to do that and to hand out anything? Okay, great. While they do that, I can go to the perfunctory stuff that I skipped before when I can ask the board secretary. Madam Secretary, do you have any additional correspondence from city agencies or also additional correspondence from the public that we can add into the record?
Yes, we do. We have the comment from the police commissioner, from the Department of Public Safety. The Department of Public Safety has reviewed the attached report in regards to 1 Bradford Road, and they have no objections. The fire department, the water department. There is a 12-inch water main supply to this project. The Board of Water requires that a RPZ be installed on the domestic water line and a DCB be installed on the fire line. And okay, that's what they said. I have something from the fire department. The fire department has no objections to the application as long as the New York State Fire and Building Code and the NFPA 13 are followed, and all necessary permits are granted. Also, the number of fire hydrants should be increased, and all increased at a minimum of 20 feet wide. This includes cell towers access, dumpster access. Also, no sprinkler plans have been submitted to the fire department and the fire and alarm plans also. That's what I have.
Great, thank you very much, Madam Secretary. So folks, yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
I know there was some correspondence. We have requested correspondence from the ARB.
Yes.
That recommendation.
That is,
I think that should be read.
yeah, Madam Secretary, thank you, Commissioner. That's the point that we would you be able to add the correspondence from the ARB at this point?
Felt like 2 pages. Maybe this is long to read that.
you have it long?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
I think that would be, you can add that in right now. That would be- Thank you.
At a special meeting of the Architectural Review Board held on Monday, November 23rd, 2015, we, the Architectural Review Board, began reviewing and assessing the aesthetic features of this proposal.
English.
The ARB suggests that the planning board considers. It is the opinion of the ARB that an appropriate design could work at this site. However, the current iteration and configuration of the proposal is aesthetically bland, impacts the natural character of the area, is too massive, does not conceal its density within the park-like setting, lacks character, and overall is not aesthetically appropriate for the site itself, the surrounding area, and neighborhood. Accordingly, the planning board should further consider that this design is visually offensive considering the natural aesthetics of the surrounding area, that the design is strikingly dissimilar and creates visual discord with the natural character of the park-like surroundings regarding mass, bulk, size, scale, location, orientation, design, height, character, hardscape, such as but not limited to concrete picnic/grill area, chain link fencing, and color scheme. That the applicant should submit various views of the proposed structure from the surrounding park and other locations, further understanding about the number of people using the park, and not enough information to provide a better assessment of the proposal in relationship to its surroundings, and that the following suggestions may add to the aesthetic character of the overall site. Greater buffer/transition between the proposed structure and the surrounding natural character, using more aesthetically pleasing hardscape features, such as more decorative fencing, a more decorative fence, undulation of the proposed structure, in particular by varying roof heights, using complex massing to break up the mass while considering the density, and providing distinguishable architectural character and uniqueness through the incorporation of innovative and creative design patterns and elements for this special location within the city of Mount Vernon. That's one.
Can we get copies of that report? The public?
You can foil it.
Say again?
You can foil it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
So,
May I ask a question?
ma'am, please don't follow him. But here's what I'm going to let everybody know. We got to have plenty of time for everyone to come up and ask questions and whatnot. So that's what the majority of this public hearing is about. And so what I'll ask everyone to do is absolutely come with your question. You'll come with that. But I will ask you to come forward and sign up, because that's kind of what we have to do, because your comment, your question will be part of our record. So if you ask it from there, I won't be able to capture it that way. So I need you to come up and ask that question, okay? And anybody else who wants to do so, absolutely, because that's what this public session is for. And we'll keep it open as long as we have to answer those questions. This is an important part of our community, right? So that's what we're going to get it all right here. And these folks get paid good money to come and answer every question we got. And they're going to. All right? That make sense? Okay. So I'll ask, I will ask folks not to shout your questions out, because we'll hear you, we want to answer, but we'll need to have an orderly process so we can listen to everybody and get you all responses. Respectfully, ma'am. All right? So, any other, here's what we're going to do, folks. What we're going to do is, as I mentioned to you, we have a meeting prior to this meeting. And during that work session, we go over the applicant's submissions. We do it again at this session, but what that session gives us the ability to do is, one, read it, understand it, ask some additional questions, but we will still have a dialogue back and forth. If at any point you hear us short-circuiting the conversation and you can't follow it, absolutely, please someone come and ask us to explain that. But we will go through the process. What the applicant has done, to their credit, has submitted a response to that, and they align their answers to our questions. We don't always get that. So what I'm going to do is defer to the applicant to take us through your process and your submission, and take us through it at your pace, because in most cases it will answer all of our questions, but in a more organized form. So I'll pause. Any other questions, comments, commissioners, or any corrections to me, what I've said, and we can go. All right? Thank you. Appreciate it, thank you, sir. For the record, Stuart Lax, LACHS, Perkins Eastman, architects for the project. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the PowerPoint that I have prepared today really just takes materials that have already been submitted to you and that you've received, both the original submission on or about October 30th and then the subsequent response, included with Mr. Justice's letter on November 23rd, and highlighted on the sheets where applicable where the information requested it or that we're responding to it. So for instance, the first item was regarding the fire hydrants, and on sheet C08 that referred to in the letter, we're just pointing out where the fire hydrants are.
If I need help from the professionals, they would be happy to. The second comment was show more clarity on the sidewalks at the entrance and exit to the property and how they will tie the development into the surrounding neighborhood. So Amanda, if you wanted to talk about the modifications that you made to the drawing to tie that sidewalk in the north end.
For the record, Amanda DeCesare from BHB.
Welcome back.
For the northern entrance, there was concern that the sidewalk did not continue on into the road, so that there could be, sorry, it's actually a cut. I'm going to try on this. So the sidewalk was extended to meet the road, Wilsonwood Park Road, and there's proposed plan for a crosswalk so that anyone exiting the site of the northern entrance can cross over and safely get to the sidewalk along the western edge. It wasn't really clear on this one, I apologize.
Let me just ask, there was a question at the work session as to determining the property, who owns the property when you get outside of your property.
We haven't been able to determine that yet. We believe it's county, it's owned by the county because it's part of the county park.
Were you able to get their specifications and requirements for sidewalk
Not yet.
construction? Okay.
With regard to the southern entrance, the intent is to maintain just the access points for the cell tower and trash, the dumpster area. So these will be marked as no obstruction in access.
Good evening, for the record, John Kenny with VHB. I'm the traffic engineer of Bradford. I was informed by Mr. DeCesare and by Mr. Weingarten this year regarding the concerns the board had expressed about the routes to the train station and the ability to provide sidewalks. And what we've done as part of the presentation, and it should be one of the slides, the issues are all kind of intertwined, so we can skip forward. There are 3 potential routes from the site to the Pelham train station. And that is the closest of the 2 train stations. The first route is to exit out of the site and go down to Beechwood Road and across over the overpass and then head north to the train station. The second route is to head up on Wilson Woods Park Road and pass the ramps to the Parkway, turn right, head down, then turn right and head down to its 5th to the train station. And then for those who prefer the outdoors when the weather is cooperative, you can also cut through the park. There is a path that goes under the bridge for the Hutchins Parkway, runs across the park,
So we know that the board has expressed some interest in how pedestrians will be able to access the Beechwood Avenue from the site. The site plan that is in front of you has restrictions on the driveway that is at the south end. It's limited to cell tower access and trash pickup, and there are signs at either end of the driveway that prohibit vehicles or non-authorized vehicles from entering or exiting that driveway. So it effectively is an inactive driveway except for a couple of times a day. If the trash comes by, they have to access the cell tower. We've also added a bicycle rack at the south end of the building, and so the concept is to allow cyclists to exit along a designated path out the south driveway and go down Bradford Road to Beechwood Avenue. The thought would be that that would also be a suitable route for pedestrians to exit. We would like to provide a sidewalk. The issue that occurs is that at the south end, that's where most of the rock is and where the terrain is very steep. And if we provide a sidewalk, we're bound by law to make it ADA accessible, which is something that is impractical at this point. So the thought was that the ADA accessible sidewalk goes out to the road at Wilson Woods Road at the north end of the site, and by making the south end of the site driveway inactive, there will be very little traffic activity at that driveway, and even very little traffic activity at that end of the parking lot, because when you come in, you're going to park the first space you get, you'll be at the north end of the road. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so going back to your walking diagrams, you have 3 different routes. The route that takes you south on the property,
Yes.
how are you getting off of your property?
So if you go back to the one that showed the entire site now with the new, I guess it's the other way. Sorry. Is that it? So going back. Okay. So if you come out of the property, you can walk down the sidewalk, and then you can walk along this designated path through the parking lot. There's a sidewalk at the street here. You can take the sidewalk down Bradford Road to Beechwood.
So there is a path and a sidewalk down that entrance where you're asking?
There is not a sidewalk. There's a path that is striped. It's basically a 5-foot wide path. And there are signs at either end which prohibit regular traffic from using the driveway. Only the trash truck and the cell tower truck are allowed to use this driveway.
However, you're stating it's safe for pedestrians.
It's my opinion that it's safe for pedestrians. What I will add, sir, is that we are looking to see if we can improve on this. We just got it from you yesterday, and it's a challenge.
I know you have it on a piece of paper, that's why I'm asking.
Yes.
It's the same way
For my opinion, it's safe, but we're looking to see if we can do that.
You describe the word path versus sidewalk.
A sidewalk.
In terms of construct, is a path a third?
No, it's paved. This path is paved with asphalt.
Oh, so
Typically, a sidewalk is elevated.
Okay, so it's asphalt path.
Correct.
Got
Yes.
It's marked pavement.
it. Okay.
Questions, comments?
And then, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to remind you, and I know that it's something we talked about when we were last before the board, and that is that, while this is intended to be transit-oriented, and it is within walking distance to the train station, we are, as required by the City Council, going to be providing jitney service for the residents of the building during peak hours in the morning and the evening. So that's something that I just wanted to remind you of. I know we talked about it briefly when we were here last.
Right, and so one of the things we were also talking about was the fact, and thank you very much for supplying those walking times and whatnot. I would challenge to think that northern round was only 4 more minutes more than that southern route. It seemed odd, but, I'm sorry, it wasn't?
Those times were per Google Maps walking, so we didn't necessarily
I hear you.
just so you know.
But I hear you, but you know how we always challenge Google too sometimes?
Absolutely, but we all came up to the same starting point and ending point.
And I appreciate that. But the concept of this came from the fact that if the feedback we gave you, if you develop that southern entrance, what you do is you actually bridge and marry the community with your development. Because the reality is that people are going to go down that way and take the shortest distance, and they're going to take your path or your bike path or whatever, or walk past your garbage trucks and your dumpsters to get to the train faster than going north, even if you make them go out the north way and come back around. So I applaud you that you started to work on it and you got the guys to do it. I think you all are smart enough that you're going to come up with some ideas we didn't even think about. But I think if I speak only for myself, you're going in the right direction because that's where the people are going to go, and that's where you'll bridge with the community that needs to accept you. And you have a subdivision already there, those Pelham Del Views, that already has a whatever minute head start to that land bridge. So, questions, comments, anything else, commissioners? If not, we can go back to the next mark. Let me pause for a second right now, and I may throw this order, but if anybody, member of the public, has a question in regards specifically to this traffic right now, if you want to come up and answer, because they have a long list, so I don't want to have lost your question or ask you to hold your question, particularly this lady in pink, who I owe her, and so she gets the first bracket. Come on,